A crowd of people are heading towards a building labeled Seoul F, Land FC. Judging by the atmosphere, there is some kind of significant event going on, perhaps a cyber sports championship, as there are posters and banners hanging around. Spectators have gathered inside the arena, cheering and raising glow sticks, lighting up the stands. The DKZ arena screen displays a scene with the competitors playing. The star of the tournament is clearly about to take the stage, and the audience shouts in anticipation, keeping the atmosphere going. The main player enters the center of the stage. He is the MVP of the 6th and 7th World Championships, which emphasizes his status. Stepping onto the main stage, the hero is clearly expecting something more, but suddenly finds himself in a completely different world. Surrounded by a large group of powerful fighters who look menacing, they eye him suspiciously, and the hero clearly looks tense, sweating with fear. An imposing building is shown, with a crowd of fighters standing in front of it with the hero. Someone calls him Dae-ho, and judging by the look on his face, he doesn't quite like that name. The fighters discuss his unusual name and strange clothing, noting that he is small compared to the others. One of the fighters demands to know more about the hero. The two fighters look surprised and suspicious. They then start arguing amongst themselves, accusing each other of being rude. One of them even mentions that the other once killed him, to which the latter responds with irony, laughing. The atmosphere becomes more tense. The two fighters stand opposite each other. Their gaze is permeated with tension, as if they are ready to fight again. The hero looks very frightened. His eyes are dilated with fear. He is sweating, clearly not realizing what is happening. The situation is clearly getting tense. The two fighters start a confrontation, and the hero, caught between them, is confused. He's thinking, what the? Suddenly, visually, it's as if lightning flashes between the two fighters, showing their hostility. Dae-ho realizes that they were enemies standing on the same battlefield. The fighters' hostile gazes filled with rage. One looks on with a blazing red gaze, the other with a cold blue gaze. Both are ready for a fight, and their breath like vapor only adds to the feeling of aggression. One of the fighters says with a chuckle, "Know that you were only able to get into Valhalla because of me." They clasp each other's hands in a tight grip, showing their power and resilience. The other fighter replies with a chuckle, "That was a great fight." The fighter continues the conversation, adding, "But since you're here, so you died right away." The other, without losing his smile, replies, "Ah, well, you see." Right after that, there is clearly a spirit of rivalry and even friendly competition between them. Recollection of the past. The fighter remembers being finished off by a guy with his hair braided into a pigtail. This moment is accompanied by an image of the young man plunging a knife into the fighter's stomach, with the words, "Father," emphasizing the personal drama of what is happening. The first to fall at the hands of this thug was called Bjorn. The fighters laugh. One of them says, "You avenged your father," and chuckles. The other adds, "You have raised your son well. He will be a great warrior," to which his interlocutor replies that he is already an outstanding warrior. The hero observes and wonders, "How did I end up in this crazy place?" Bach intime. The crowd cheers and shouts, holding placards that read Dae-ho. Apparently, we are about to see a backstory that sheds light on what led the character to current events. Dae-ho is wearing a cybersports outfit with headphones, smiling and looking confident. Next to him is his partner, also sitting at a computer but seems less active. They are clearly in a tournament focused on the game. Dae-ho was going to win the world championship for the 3rd time in a row. This is the hero's thought, emphasizing his ambition and lofty goals in cybersports. Soon, Dae-ho collapses on his keyboard. He looks tired or passed out. Dae-ho is shocked, sweating and nervous. He thinks, "Wait, did I really die at that moment?" His panic emphasizes that he doesn't understand what's happening or how he ended up in the current situation. Dae-ho continues to worry, cupping his hands in fear, his thoughts full of questions. Is this not a dream after all? A woman with white hair and a bright expression appears. She says, "This one was a champion," and emphasizes that he had won duels over dozens of battles. Her confident tone and gestures indicate her importance and knowledge of the hero's past. The crowd of onlookers shouts words of admiration, "Champion, king of duels," adding that the hero is small but impressive. This emphasizes that the hero was indeed an outstanding player and was respected for his skills. Someone in the crowd shouts out that they want to fight the hero, with many faces around, burning with excitement and eager for battle. This moment heightens the atmosphere and emphasizes the hostility. Dae-ho stands next to the woman, clearly confused, while the crowd around him continues to shout and clamor. The woman holds his shoulder, adding an element of support, but the character himself looks stunned. Dae-ho realizes that it was all because of this woman, asking himself suspiciously, "Why is she winking at me?" The woman looks playful, as if she's aware of something the hero doesn't realize. Dae-ho is passed out in a cybersports chair, and is surrounded by his comrades trying to bring him to his senses. The hero stands, and a bright glow engulfs him. He is stunned, his face expresses surprise, and question marks appear nearby, reinforcing this feeling. Daeho's dark silhouette lies face down on the table. The hero realizes what's happening and wonders, is this me? This shows that he is apparently observing his own body and can't believe the reality of what he sees. The character, surrounded by the shining light, covers his face with his hand and exclaims, "Ah," showing that the light has blinded him or is causing him pain. The woman with white hair says, "The soul of a warrior who lost his life." Her words sound like an explanation of what is happening, as if she is talking about the fate of a hero after his death. Daeho sadly says, "After a glorious battle, I lost my life." His facial expression is sad and full of regret. He realizes his end. The woman, smiling, says to the hero, "Come with me." Her words suggest a transition into a new reality. Daeho, uncertain and with anxiety on his face, asks the woman, "Where to? It's not hell, is it?" He hopes that something terrible isn't waiting for him. The woman smiles and holds out her hand to him, giving him a sense of support and reassurance. She says calmly, "A hand." The hero looks slightly confused. There is confusion in his eyes, but he still reaches for the girl's hand. The next moment, they both take off, the woman confidently leading the hero, holding his hand, while the latter, screaming fearfully, tries to understand what's going on. It seems that the journey begins too suddenly for him. The girl says, "To Valhalla," confidently guiding them up a multicolored shining path. The hero tries to realize what he's heard and barely manages to utter, "What, Val?" On his face is confusion and fear of the unknown. The light stream rushes away from them, leaving behind a trail of rainbows. Daeho screams, trying to cope with what's happening. He ponders that Valhalla is an afterlife from mythology, and that only warriors who die on the battlefield go there. His knowledge of Valhalla comes from the games, and he begins to realize that it is not just a myth. He looks at the girl, thinking that she may have mistaken him for a great warrior since she is leading him to Valhalla. The girl looks proud and confident, and the hero ponders that from her facial expression, it really does seem that way. Daeho tries to explain that he's not a real warrior, but just a professional gamer, a person who plays games. The girl, upon hearing this, clarifies, "Games? You mean battles? Duels?" The hero is clearly confused, explaining that this is not at all what she envisions. At the end, Daeho asks with desperation, "Now, please take me back to where I am." However, his words remain unspoken, leaving a sense of hopelessness and confusion. A man in a helmet with horns blows a horn, creating a harsh sound. Judging from his expression, it is a signal of alarm or a call to action. A woman with white hair shouts, announcing enemy attack, and orders everyone to prepare for battle. She is clearly concerned about the situation. A crowd of men with brightly glowing red eyes appear. There is consternation on our protagonist's face. He realizes that he has encountered something frightening and dangerous. He screams in panic, realizing the magnitude of what is happening. This is fucked up. A huge army of enemies can be seen rushing to attack. Their numbers are fearsome and leave no doubt that the battle will be no small matter. A close-up of several beast-like warriors with burning eyes. They look menacing and prepare to attack. The battle begins. One of the warriors strikes a powerful blow, which is accompanied by a flash of light. The fierceness of the battle is conveyed through vigorous movements. A multitude of warriors fight in close combat. Shouts and the noise of battle fill the space. Daeho observes this chaos and is perplexed. What the hell? Obviously, he doesn't realize how he got into this situation. The situation becomes more complicated for him as he holds the sword in his hands, not knowing what to do next, and says, "What am I supposed to do? I've never even held a real sword in my hands." His indecision and fear is conveyed through this scene. Daeho is shocked and wonders, "Since I got here after I died," clearly realizing his situation. He then stands in front of a huge enemy that has its paw over him, preparing to strike, and the character wonders, "What happens if I die again?" The enemy attacks, and a powerful blow appears from behind, accompanied by a flash. It is a huge bearded man, who with a battle cry suddenly intervenes, saying, "Duck, young man." The man unleashes a powerful blow on the enemy, creating an explosion. He introduces his technique as Stone Fist Catching Bear. It seems to be a special technique that has caused considerable destruction. After the blow, the man looks at the hero and asks, "You don't know about Saga?" Daeho's facial expression is filled with fear and incomprehension, and he stammers, "Sa-ga?" The man repeats again, "You don't know about Saga?" clearly surprised and disappointed. The protagonist utters in shock, "Saga." His gaze is flustered, his eyes are wide open, and he is clearly trying to realize what is happening. A man with a serious expression, whose hand is engulfed in flames, explains that to enter Valhalla is to have significant accomplishments known to many. As the man continues his speech, he emphasizes that accomplishments are power. The more they are known, the stronger you become. The hero listens to him bewildered, not understanding what this has to do with him. Daeho reflects on his accomplishments, his face expressing worry. He begins to realize that his own merits are clearly not comparable to those who have earned a place in Valhalla. Daeho hesitates, holding a finger to his mouth. His embarrassment grows, until finally he confesses, "I was just eating and playing games." This thought emphasizes his confusion and the realization that his ordinary life has brought him no distinguished merit. The enigmatic warrior appears against the backdrop of a gloomy sky. His image is impressive heavy armor and a determined look. This character looks confident and powerful. The hero thinks again. An idea pops up in his head. Wait, what if? He tries to find a way out by analyzing his current situation. Finally, a dragon rider appears, soaring through the sky. Daeho ponders that his game character might have had achievements that can now help him. He thinks back to the immortal warrior achievements on Kalstead, realizing that they could be the key to surviving this situation. The hero begins to experience a strong energy surge that completely overwhelms him. He is confused and afraid of what is happening. Magical symbols of light begin to emanate from his hands, which makes him even more surprised. At this time, the warrior notices that the hero actually has a saga, and that he can see the symbols of light in front of him. The hero admits that he doesn't know these letters, but somehow he can read them, which reminds him of using the image translation feature. At this point, the synchronization with Kalstead only 1%. Daeho realizes that the title Immortal Warrior belongs to Kalstead, but if he can harness Kalstead's power, he will become the strongest in this world. His ambition gains momentum. Suddenly the warrior urges him to look forward, which leaves the hero perplexed. He turns and faces a gigantic foe, the sight of which inspires fear. In the next second, the enemy delivers a powerful blow, throwing the hero to the ground while he screams in pain. Daeho tries to avoid the blow and falls to the ground, screaming in pain. He gets up and prepares for his next move. His thoughts are filled with doubt. Kalstead's strength shouldn't be this weak. The enemy, a huge beast-like warrior with a hammer in his hands, is clearly not going to stop. The protagonist ponders what the problem is with his saga when the system indicates that the synchronization with Kalstead is only 1%. He begins to feel despair, until he sees the Immortal Warrior inscription appear before his eyes. Upon seeing this inscription, however, the hero seems confused, exclaiming that it looks more like some kind of insurance document. Bjorn, standing nearby, laughs at his words and adds that this is not the end of the saga, and that the protagonist must continue to make up his story. He introduces himself as Bjorn and walks away, leaving the hero with an admonition to survive and meet again. Daeho is left to face the monster, who uses only 1% of Kalstead's power and seems completely invincible. Even 1%, more than enough. With those words, he rushes forward, channeling all his energy into the attack. His gaze is full of determination, and he is clearly ready for decisive action. At this time, the image of Kalstead, a superhuman who single-handedly faced hundreds of soldiers, appears before him. The hero is inspired by this legend and dreams of becoming part of such a story, part of the legend of Kalstead and himself. The battle continues to gain momentum. The monster swings his hammer. The hero has to dodge and attack back, his body filled with adrenaline. He thinks about the upcoming fight and the fact that perhaps now he will have to create his own legend by fighting such a formidable opponent. Taking another swing of the hammer, destroying everything. The monster is clearly not happy that such a weakling is still dodging. Meanwhile, Daeho remembers the glory he used to have. The hero is immersed in a torrent of powerful energy. He rushes into the attack, bringing with him a fierce storm of power. His cry echoes across the battlefield. Storm! The hero uses his technique to sweep away his enemies, his powerful blow literally demolishing everything in its path. He imagines that Kalstead is him Lee Daeho. There is a burst of energy and the hero continues to push forward, activating the warrior charge, unstoppable as the storm sweeps away everything in its path. His determination is evident on his face. He's ready to go all the way. The hero jumps, finding himself in the air, but the force of the enemy's attack still throws him back to the ground. He tries to recover, but a huge monster gets in the way, menacingly approaching him. After a brief respite, the hero reflects on the challenge he faces. So does the call of achievement add up to a new saga. This new realization makes him even more determined. Okay, with this saga ability, he says, looking forward with confidence, I'll definitely survive. Soon we see a building at night, with laughter and sounds of celebration outside the windows. Inside, a feast is taking place, where two warriors clash mugs with a shout of "Scan!" and chat merrily with each other. One of them, smirking, says it was just a warm-up. In the background in the feasting hall, Lee Dae-ho struggles to bite off a piece of meat, unhappily noticing that the only thing being served here is alcohol and meat. He's clearly not happy about the warrior's feast. The man sitting next to him says to Lee Dae-ho with a smirk that if he wants better food, he needs to upgrade his warrior class. This feast is the lowest gathering where lower-class warriors and beginners meet, so the food is appropriate. Lee Dae-ho sarcastically asks if Bjorn is one of these lower warriors. Bjorn laughs, explaining that he's only down to join them for a bit. Lee Dae-ho gratefully admits that Bjorn is the reason he survived, and manages to add that if he hadn't told him about Saga, he would have died. When Lee Dae-ho asks what will happen if he dies here, Bjorn replies that the souls of the dead pass into steel warriors. These warriors feel no pain or hunger and can fight forever. The hero reacts to this in horror, calling them coffins of steel. He thinks that he can't afford to die and that his identity will soon be determined. Bjorn confirms that the choice of belonging will soon begin. A warrior enters the stage, announcing that he has seen the feats of the gathered men and that he will now tell them which legion they will belong to. Lee Dae-ho learns that before them stands Odin's daughter Reginlave, born of noble blood. The Valkyrie encourages everyone to look into their cups, where they will see the name of the one they will trust and follow. Bjorn explains that they all belong to the legion of the gods of Asgard and that they will receive even greater power from their god. The hero, gazing excitedly at the glowing goblet, prays to himself, Odin or Thor, please. Lee Dae-ho and the girl in the red robe are floating on a small boat on a quiet river surrounded by dense vegetation. Lee Dae-ho looks slightly pensive as they talk. He ponders aloud as to why he finds himself alone when legions of gods are mentioned. The girl in the robe tries to cheer him up by talking about their legion's strengths that set them apart from the others. She jokes that their legion doesn't have those who nag from above or cause trouble. She laughs, saying this is paradise, and the guy wonders if he is really here alone. Suddenly his expression changes and he worries, Iduna's legion? At this point he sees the name Iduna on his mug, and an explanation appears that Iduna is the goddess of eternal youth in Germanic Scandinavian mythology. The hero prays to himself, hoping that a noble name will fall to him. When the result is known, the crowd of people shouts joyfully, calling out the names of the gods Thor, Odin. The warrior with a smile on his face shouts that he finally made it and expresses his emotions, saying how happy he is. Lee Dae-ho is surprised and a little embarrassed when he discovers that his call is connected to a name he doesn't even know. A woman with white hair appears and orders everyone associated with Odin to follow her. The crowd of people begins shouting the names of the gods, mentioning Odin, Thor, and Freya among others. The hero begins to realize his connection to Iduna and her importance, standing in reflection. The girl with red hair says something like, Iduna, ha, and smiles nervously as she repeats the name. Walking up to the girl, Lee Dae-ho apologizes, feeling awkward about the situation, and the girl looks at him in surprise. Lee Dae-ho admits that he belongs to Iduna's legion, which the girl was very happy about. Upon learning that he's a new recruit, she happily expresses surprise that she hasn't met any new recruits in a long time, and emotionally moves closer, creating tension between them. Lee Dae-ho is embarrassed at how close she got, and the girl starts to introduce herself. But the guy suddenly says the girl's name himself, Haida. He asks who they're fighting and why. She looks at him a little confused, but then confidently offers to explain what's going on here. Using magical energy, Haida visualizes the world they are in. She tells them that they are now in Asgard, and beyond that is Muspelheim, where all the threats come from, giants, evil gods, and monsters. Lee Dae-ho notices a red area and asks what it is. Haida explains that it's a unit called Eren which has already fallen, and now their line of defense is on the front lines. Lee Dae-ho ponders that maybe this is the Ragnarok he's seen in the games. Haida explains that they are fighting for the fate of the world. They are protecting the world from evil to save it, but deep down everyone is also trying to just survive. In one of the battles, the thunder god Thor actively participates, engaging in combat with numerous enemies. The protagonist realizes that it is possible to travel between worlds. This means that he gets a chance to return to his home world where he originally came from. As they continue traveling along the river, they arrive at their destination. Haida informs them that it is a temple of the goddess, and since they are her warriors, they should pay their respects. The heroes get off the boat and head to the temple. Dae-ho wonders if they will really see the goddess here. Haida says that the goddess is usually in a higher place and will not appear immediately in front of them. Haida holds out a golden apple to the guy and asks him to stand on the altar and throw it. Lee Dae-ho, slightly surprised, accepts the apple, wondering what it's for. He follows the instructions, stands on the altar, and prepares to throw the apple. Lee Dae-ho throws the apple onto the altar, and the impact of it hitting the floor on the altar causes the magical symbol to begin to glow, surrounding it with a golden light. Suddenly, the guy feels a strange tension and, throwing his hands up in the air, yells, "Whoa!" A luminous figure appears in front of the guy, who introduces herself as Iduna, the goddess of life and youth, and asks him to come closer. He sees a huge tree and the figure of the goddess standing in front of him. The boy, stunned, exclaims, "Goddess!" and his heart begins to beat frantically with excitement. As he gets closer, Lee Dae-ho feels a sense of awe as he feels a stream of energy pouring down on him like water from a height. Dae-ho begins to feel his body naturally giving honor to the goddess by bowing to her. Iduna says that she is bestowing her blessing that will protect his body from mortal danger, adding that it is the sigil of life. She places her hand on his head and magic envelopes the hero. He feels an incredible power and exclaims, "Wow, what power is this?" A magical glow spreads around his body. At that moment, Iduna declares that youth is the power. The hero, feeling the changes in his body, joyfully notices that all his old problems like back pain and other symptoms have disappeared. He delightedly realizes that his body is now completely healed, and Iduna confirms that he is now strong. Iduna says with a smile that she expects future contributions from him, and the hero falls to the ground, stunned and upside down. Haida points at him and reminds him, "You've been blessed." Dae-ho looks at her in bewilderment, but can't say anything. She explains to him that Iduna is the goddess of eternal youth and longevity, and that thanks to the blessing, death is now virtually impossible. Lying on the ground, he looks at her, mouthing, "She's beautiful." Lee Dae-ho sits up, and Haida adds that his blessing will grow even stronger as he grows, which is why their legion has been dubbed the Zombie Legion. Lee Dae-ho sits surrounded by a mysterious atmosphere, pondering the possibility of returning to the world where he lived. Haida, a girl with long red hair and wings on her head, confidently tells him that it's possible if they defeat all the enemies. She promises that if the war ends, Lee will be able to return home. Lee Dae-ho, full of hope, asks himself if his behavior was cool, and is sure that any girl would be struck dumb. He's clearly flattered by his own act and a little smug. Haida, watching him, smiles and thinks his thoughts are cute. She seems to find his behavior amusing and enjoyable. When Haida reaches out to Lee, he realizes that if he wants to go back, he can do it. He confidently states that he must return, seeing no joy in staying in this crazy place. Suddenly, their hands touch, and Lee Dae-ho feels warm and soft. This moment takes him by surprise, and he is caught up in an unexpected feeling that makes him smile. Lee Dae-ho and Haida find themselves in unexpected proximity to each other. Lee Dae-ho is confused and thinks, "So far," and "So close." Lee Dae-ho's inner voice wonders, "Is there any point in staying here?" Later, the action moves to a door with a code lock, where someone enters the code. Haida, dressed in a yellow apron, greets someone with the words, "Welcome home, my laborer. You've come just in time." She is clearly delighted to see the return of the man who has entered the house. Haida offers him a piece of food on a spoon, saying, "Here, Saya, come on, Aya." The atmosphere becomes more homely and warm. Lee Dae-ho, sitting at the table with rice and chopsticks in his hands, prepares to taste the food. He opens his mouth to accept the treat, and his face is surrounded by an aura of hearts, indicating his pleasant feelings. However, in the next moment, Lee Dae-ho's expression abruptly changes to a frightened expression as he suddenly finds himself with a shoe in his mouth. He yells "Aak," clearly shocked at what's happening. He then tries to cope with the situation, but his face looks tense and sweaty. Lee Dae-ho tastes the tough meat, which reminds him of the taste of leather boots. This helps him return to reality from his state of delusion. Haida, noticing his condition, asks if he's okay. She laughs and clarifies if the meat is too tough, suggesting that Lee Dae-ho work hard and raise his grade. Haida explains that raising his class will lead to better relationships and living conditions, including better food and housing. She cheers him on, urging him to hang in there and not give up. The scene shifts to the street where Lee Dae-ho and Haida are spending time with a child. They laugh merrily and Haida dreams of a miracle like the Han River. At this point, Lee Dae-ho's delusion system reaches a critical level. The action then returns to the training ground, where Haida explains that you can get runes for defeating enemies. Lee Dae-ho remembers the red energy being infused into his body and assumes that he already has a few runes. He realizes that he can use the runes he received to improve his abilities to become stronger. Lee Dae-ho ponders the different aspects of strength, agility, stamina, mana, and willpower. He realizes that mana enhances magic and increases magical defenses, while willpower strengthens concentration and mental defenses. Haida explains that simply increasing stats does not make a saga stronger. The true power of a saga depends on the number of people who know the story and their belief in it. The more people believe, the stronger the saga becomes. Sometimes a saga can trump reality, turning, for example, a story about catching a snake into a legend about slaying a dragon. Sagas about lower-class warriors are simple and center on strength and speed. However, true sagas are the epitome of legends with a variety of effects. They can create weapons, transform, and summon armies. Haida reminds Lee Dae-ho that the ability to summon and evolve a saga is up to him. He realizes that his story is in his hands. Kalsted's Dragon Knight appears in a majestic scene, riding a huge dragon. His sword shines in his hands, and the aura of legend spills around him. In another scene, Haida is standing next to Lee Dae-ho, a tense atmosphere surrounding them. Suddenly, a bell rings, which can be heard throughout the neighborhood, and all the villagers begin to gather. Haida turns to Lee Dae-ho, explaining that it's an order to go into battle. Lee Dae-ho is a little surprised at the speed of events, but accepts the information. Suddenly, a portal opens in front of them, shining with a purple light. Haida explains that going through this gate will take them to the deployment waiting area where everyone gathers before heading to the battlefield. Lee Dae-ho prepares himself for the challenge ahead. He puts on his shield and sword, his face expressing a mixture of excitement and determination. Lee Dae-ho is not looking forward with much confidence, and is not quite ready for a new adventure. Lee Dae-ho and Haida are on the training ground. Haida enthusiastically tells Lee Dae-ho that his outfit looks perfect and suits him very well. She touches his chest, expressing her admiration. Lee Dae-ho, a little embarrassed, turns away from Haida, rubbing his forehead and trying to hide his embarrassment. He says he's about to leave. Haida, slightly concerned, calls out to him, "Dae-ho!" As he walks away, Lee Dae-ho turns around, his face flushed and his sword and shield visible behind his back. He looks determined, but a little nervous. Haida, with a serious and caring expression on her face, tells him, "Don't die in there." Her words are full of care and support. Lee Dae-ho, with sincerity in his voice, replies that she said dying is hard, and mentions Iduna's blessing, which apparently gives him confidence. He raises his thumb up, showing his determination. Haida watches him, her gaze full of emotion. She stays in place as Lee Dae-ho walks away, surrounded by a magical light that rises around him. Lee Dae-ho suddenly finds himself in another place, surrounded by a crowd of people who look like warriors. He is stunned and surprised, but ready for what lies ahead. Lee Dae-ho looks around the battlefield and notices that there are a lot of warriors, wondering if this is a major battle. Suddenly, someone calls his name and he feels a blow on his back, causing his body to lean forward. Lee Dae-ho turns around in shock, his eyes wide open, and he sees Bjorn, who greets him cheerfully, saying that they've met again. Lee Dae-ho is surprised but happy to see Bjorn. Bjorn notices that Lee Dae-ho is looking better, and jokingly asks if his head Valkyrie is a beauty. Lee Dae-ho is embarrassed, but Bjorn laughs, saying that all Valkyries are beauties, and advises Lee Dae-ho to find his legion sooner rather than later, as there will be a commander today. Lee Dae-ho finds himself in front of a group of warriors and feels a bit out of place. One of the warriors asks if the kid is an Iduna warrior and advises him to stand behind him so he doesn't stand out. Lee Dae-ho agrees and takes his seat. At this time, the commander, who introduces himself as Ragnar of the Heimdall Legion, loudly announces that he will be leading the battle today, inspiring the warriors for the upcoming battle. Lee Dae-ho is preparing for an important battle to regain territory lost in the battle with the Gnolls. He realizes that they will be right in the middle of the battle. The warriors of Valhalla, inspired by the call, prepare for battle. They shout, "Onward, warriors of Valhalla, for Asgard and the 9 worlds," and rush through the portal leading them to the battlefield. A few portals later, the warriors move to another location, lining up in ranks. Ragnar, the leader among them, confidently declares that he will lead them and asks them to follow him. Inspired by his courage, the warriors shout, "Got it! This is the back of a real man." Lee Dae-ho, watching the scene, admits that he can't see anything. On the snowy battlefield, many warriors gather. The focus is on the opponents, among whom a strong and intimidating figure with burning red eyes stands out. Suddenly, one of the warriors notices the approaching reinforcements and exclaims, "Reinforcements are coming!" This gives them hope, and they confidently declare, "All right, we'll get through." Suddenly, however, one of the warriors notices something strange and wonders, "Who?" At this time, a figure with a huge hammer appears on top of the cliff, ready to engage in battle. Lee Dae-ho and his comrades look up to the top of the mountain where the mysterious figure appears. They are surprised and wonder what it could be. The figure, dressed in dark clothes and armed with a hammer, suddenly jumps off the mountain, creating a powerful impact. Suddenly, a huge beast with burning red eyes appears in front of them, Boss White Fang. Its sudden appearance causes panic among the warriors, who exclaim, "Whoa, that's strong. And, is that their leader?" One of the warriors notices that this beast is much larger than the others and says, "Huge, must be 4 or 5 times bigger than the others." The other warrior, not losing his presence of mind, encourages his comrades, urging them not to stand still. But something is happening. Another portal forms behind White Fang. At that moment, everyone is screaming, "Go! Forward!" Inspired by Ragnar's command, the warriors rush into battle, determined. But a fearsome figure appears ahead of them, and the warriors prepare for a decisive battle, gathering all their courage and strength. Lee Dae-ho and his comrades are shocked by the White Wolf. They tensely watch as the huge monster with incredible strength raises a massive hammer, preparing to attack. Its red eyes glare. Soon our guy emerges from the portal and sees all the madness. Huge Wolf growls at Lee Dae-ho in a rage. It would seem the guy should be ordering himself a new coffin by now. Lee Dae-ho, who is nearby, wonders who opened the portal that led to this situation. He's clearly concerned and trying to figure out what's going on. In the midst of the tense fight, Lee Dae-ho realizes that he needs to calm down and think about strategy as if he were fighting against a game boss. This helps him gather his thoughts and focus on the battle. With determination in his eyes, he utters as he contemplates his new plan. But White Fang has already brought his huge hammer to seal Dae-ho to the ground. You want more? Write the secret word in the comments to get part 2 out as soon as possible. Secret word, Saga. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you later and bye-bye.